A lightweight 12-speed carbon group set for £300. Is the Sensah Empire Pro too good to be true? Well, we've bought it off AliExpress and we're going to find out. Now, first up, full disclosure on this, neither Sensah or AliExpress, or anyone else for that matter, have paid us to make this video. We've bought this group set with our own cash, and we don't have an agenda to say it's good or it's bad. We genuinely want to find out what it's actually like and then report that back to you. In a subsequent video, we're going to actually build this up and put it on a bike so we can see how it actually performs when it's out in the real world. But first up, what I'm going to do is just take the bits out the box and have a look and see what the quality's like compared to the components from the major group set brands. First, we've got the boxes here. This one's got the chain set in, this one's got the derailleurs and shifters in. And all in, this cost just over £300. I think it was like £310. So not much at all. Boxes aren't the nicest, but who cares? It's packaging, it goes in the bin. I'm not really bothered about that kind of stuff. So let's take a look in here. We've got some instructions which are in English and Chinese on the back, bit of foam packaging, and then in here we've got the box that's got the shifters in and the derailleurs. So first impressions of the levers, they actually look really nice. You've got like a carbon effect on the blade of the lever here. I'm not sure if they are actually fully carbon, but there's definitely like a carbon finish on them, which looks quite smart. The shape as well, pretty similar to Shimano 105 or Ultegra lever. It feels quite nice in the hand, and the blade is a good shape too. Yeah, pretty positive. The shifting action on these is cable actuated, so we've got a cable here, and it's like a SRAM lever, mechanical SRAM lever. So rather than having a shifter button, a separate button on the blade here, the whole lever moves in and you push it like that to change up, and then to change down, you push it a little bit and it goes down. But that lever action, I can feel already, that throw, that's quite long. You can see it goes quite a long way out. If you compare that to the latest Shimano mechanical group sets, so well, the previous generation 11-speed 105, that lever throw to shift gear is much shorter on those group sets. Cool little feature as well is they actually have a lever reach adjust bolt here. You can do it with a 2.5mm Allen key, and that actually allows you to change the reach of the lever. So if you've got smaller hands and you want them in closer, you can do. Quite a nice little feature that. Some more modern Shimano group sets tend to have that too. But what about the weight of the shifters? Well, to give some context, I'm gonna weigh them here. But Shimano 105 11-speed mechanical shifters are 238 grams, and SRAM Apex mechanical shifters are 344 grams each. So let's just pop it on the scales. That's coming in at 224 grams, which, yeah, pretty light, lighter than 105. So onto the rear mech. So the design of this, pretty curious. Like, it looks just like a SRAM mechanical rear mech. I had a 10-speed SRAM red rear derailleur that looked very similar to this, but it was made of lighter materials. We do have this sort of like tokenistic carbon on the cage of the rear mech here, but it looks to me like it's just sort of there aesthetically to make the derailleur look a bit more flash when it's on the side of your bike, so you've got like a carbon effect. On the other side, it appears to be steel holding it in place. And just another thing that it might be hard to show this on camera, but when you can see it in hand, the overall kind of quality of it is noticeably less than a Shimano component. Even something like Tiagra level Shimano components have a nicer sort of level of finish when you look up close. So what I'm talking about is the large cast parts. These are sort of die cast parts of the rear mech. You can see like the casting isn't quite as smooth and as good quality. There's a few imperfections in the finish. They're just aesthetic blemishes. But then also, like on the other side here, where the bottom jockey wheel connects, you can see that the bolt that holds the rear jockey wheel in place, it sort of inexplicably just kind of like sticks out the other side and is a bit sort of rough and ready. And again, you can see the finish on this is a bit rough and ready as well. Just cosmetic differences. It'll be interesting to see if the shifting performance is less when it's actually fitted. So I'm looking forward to that. Let's see what it weighs though. For reference, 105 11-speed mechanical rear derailleur is 220 grams. Let's see. 200 grams exactly for this one, so lighter than 105 and 12-speed. Another interesting little detail I just spotted is that the lower jockey wheel is slightly larger with more teeth than the top one, which is something that we've started to see on you know, the more modern Shimano group sets as well. So interesting that. Onto the front mech, and again the design of this looks very similar to sort of SRAM mechanical front derailleurs, the sort of SRAM Red and Force 11-speed front mech. So I'd imagine the operation of it's pretty similar, and it probably has a trim function built into it as well, but we'll see when we build it up. Again, as with the rear mech, the sort of once you look up close, but it is only when you look up close, the fit, the sort of material finish is not quite up there with the likes of SRAM and Shimano. It's a little bit rougher when you run your finger over it, and you can see sort of imperfections in the cast parts. Also, just this steel, which I think it's stainless steel cage for the front mech as well. It just doesn't look quite as nicely finished as what you'd get on the more premium stuff. But let's see the weight of it. So for comparison, 105 11-speed front mech is 108, 109 grams. So place your bets. 101 grams. So again, lighter. We're winning at the moment. We're beating 105, it's lighter. Let's see what the Cassette does to that. So the Cassette is 12-speed, so we're already kind of winning because it's 12-speed over 11-speed mechanical 105. I'm not really going to compare the Di2 105 because, well, it costs 1,700 quid and this is like 300 quid. But the Cassette, the first thing to notice is it's actually held in place in this one big block. You've got these 3 Phillips head bolts holding this portion of the Cassette together. It just doesn't quite look as robust, or it'll have quite as longevity. Those Phillips heads just don't look, you know, particularly robust and look like they would round out. And a Cassette design like this, with the spider being held in place by those 3 pins, I don't know. It's yeah, it doesn't look as well made as some of the Shimano Cassettes, if I'm quite honest. With regards to the material that it's made from, it's a steel alloy, which you can tell it's not the heaviest thing in the world. This is an 1128 one we've got here, but I'm going to see what it weighs. I've got the lock ring component here as well. 224 grams for that. That is impressively light. So Shimano 105 cassettes range from being about 330 to 360 grams, depending on the ratio that you get. But I mean, that is, I'm impressed by that. I worry that it's so light that it is going to be cheese and it is going to just, you know, wear out real quick. But you can see how hollow it is when you look on the inside, which is definitely going to contribute to the weight. So there's a lot of material that's been taken out of the alloy there. It's machined out to save weight. Another detail on the Cassette is you can see that it does have machined ramps on the teeth of the Cassette to help improve shifting. So a similar kind of thing to the Hyperglide that you get on Shimano cassettes. You've also got these big ramps which are used to guide the chain, like sort of almost like, you'd call them like master ramps. So you can see here for downshifting and upshifting. Although the teeth profiling isn't as sophisticated as what you get on the latest Shimano cassettes with the Hyperglide Plus. In here, I've got a chain. So let's have a quick look at this. Quite interested to see what this is. No, right, okay. So this is a 12-speed chain, and it looks pretty similar to a 105 chain. It's actually made, curiously, by a company called YBN. That's what's stamped on the chain. I can see that it's got ramps on the chain, and it is, let me just check. It does appear to be the same on both sides, so it doesn't appear to be directional. Like the Shimano chains, which have to be mounted in a particular direction, as they're asymmetric. It does have solid pins in it, like the Shimano 105 level chain, more expensive KMC chains, SRAM chains, and the top of the range Dura Ace Shimano chains have the hollow pins to save weight. But let's see how much it weighs. We do also have a quick link with it, which is nice that they include that. But that's hitting the scale at 245 grams, which is pretty light. That's actually a bit lighter than, so the best sort of Dura Ace chains, they tend to be about 220 grams. Shimano 105 11 speed is around 250 grams, and the 12 speed Shimano 105 chain's a bit heavier, about 260 grams. So, that's, again, another lighter component than 105. Bit of a trend going on here. Right, time to look at the chain set and the brakes now. Onto the chain set now. It weighs quite a bit, it's definitely the first impression, and it appears to be made of steel. We've got the chain rings which look to be stamped steel as well. They're nowhere near as good as the quality of Shimano ones, and you can just see from the visual sort of side of it. I mean, there's also a bit of scuffing of the paint coming off here as well, out the box. So not the best. It's also a completely different design to a Shimano one. So instead of the hollow tech design that you get with the hollow forged crank arms, we've got a crank arm that's a solid piece. It appears to be forged of steel here. We do have the same size 24 mil spindle that you get on a Shimano axle though, and the chainring combination we have here is a compact 50-34 with 170 mil cranks. You can get all the other options as well, so you can get mid-compact or you can get a standard 53-39 chain set if you so wish. But a Shimano 105 in compact weighs around 716 grams, around 700 grams or so. A little bit more if you get the ones with the bigger chain rings, etc. But let's see what this one hits the scale at. So 1,035 grams, so substantially heavier. I mean, just looking at this, it's significantly inferior. I mean, this is more comparable to sort of the lowest OEM chain sets that you find on sort of real entry-level road bikes, where they give you a Shimano group set and then they sub out the chain set for a lower cost part to meet the price point. Yeah, this isn't as good as the shifters and derailleurs. The other thing that's quite curious is the way that this crank arm attaches onto the spindle is really kind of like knockoff Shimano. It's the same kind of design, and I do wonder if this is actually infringing on some Shimano patents, because you have that same two bolts there, and then you have this lock ring, very similar to a Shimano one, that is just the preload that just goes on place there and just sort of goes finger tight. You've also got a little lock ring tool included to sort of tighten and loosen that as you need it. And it is a 4-bolt crank as well, quite similar. Onto the brakes, and yeah, first impressions of these, they're a bit pants. They're a make that I've never heard of, called Nut. And they are mechanically actuated disc brakes, so they're cable actuated discs, which I'm never a fan of in general. I think you could use this group set with rim brakes because it is cable, so that would probably be better. And also, if you were going to use disc brakes with it, because it is a cable group set, which does mean it keeps the price down because it's not hydraulic disc brakes, I would probably suggest switching these out and going for the hydraulic calipers that you can get, where they're cable actuated, but there's a little hydraulic reservoir on the caliper. They're not as good as dedicated hydraulic brakes, but they're going to be, I'm going to guess, better than these. I mean, we will obviously set these up and see what they're like, but I just know from my experience of using these in the past, they're never that great. The action there, that feels okay. That's not too bad. And you can see that the pads are actually moving on this design they're actually both coming in from both sides, but it's definitely coming in more on this side. Like the spring is stronger on this side, but yeah, not great. I'm just gonna see what these weigh. So for reference, Shimano 105 hydraulic calipers are 147 grams. So let's see what these are. So 225 grams for these, so quite a bit heavier than the Shimano hydraulic ones. I mean, they are more substantial, they're considerably bigger. And if you've not experienced it, the reason why cable actuated disc brakes aren't as good is they have a lot less feel, they're just not as kind of fun to use, they're not as powerful, and they're just a bit more on-off, a bit more grabby, whereas you have that real feel of modulation with hydraulic brakes. Right, so let's just have a look at what the discs are saying, because you get discs with it as well. Oh, so these rotors are, these are pretty good. So these are Avid rotors that have come with it. Avid is a sort of proper make of rotors that are established. Like I know Avid rotors, a lot of mountain bikes come with them. They are a simple rotor design though. This is a budget sort of entry-level rotor. It's not like the Shimano Ice Tech rotors that have that much more intricate design with bigger surface area, like bigger cooling fins on them for heat dissipation. Then it's not quite as sophisticated as that, but it isn't a bad rotor. It's a decent rotor, and they're 160mm front and rear as well. I'm just going to see what this weighs at as well. Might as well while I'm here. So this rotor hitting the scales, 98 grams, pretty light, but there isn't much to it. You know, weight isn't everything when it comes to a rotor. And the other thing is they're 5-bolt. So, you know, mountain bikers like 5-bolt, but generally on the road we use center lock rotors, and most wheels are designed for center lock rotors. So that's going to be a bit of a faff having to put a 5-bolt adapter onto a center lock wheel. But yeah, there are some 5-bolt wheels for road. So the last piece of the puzzle we've got is the bottom bracket, which is very similar to a sort of Shimano outboard bearing bottom bracket. It's threaded. It looks pretty decent. I mean, I'm not sure how well it'll spin. It's hard to tell until we actually get it mounted in the bike. The key thing to know is that they don't offer a press fit bottom bracket, so this is the only option. This does have the same Shimano axle standard as well, I mentioned earlier, 24mm. But if you do have a press fit bottom bracket, you're gonna have to use a different bottom bracket, but that's not a biggie. I mean, there's plenty of them out there. But overall, the impressions of this group set are pretty positive, I have to say. I think the shifters and the derailleurs in particular, they look pretty good, and I'm looking forward to trying them out and seeing how they actually perform. Where the group set in first impressions looks like it's being let down is the brakes are a bit pony, and also this chain set. I mean, it's so heavy and it's so basic that the weight savings that we're seeing on the shifters, derailleurs and cassette is being completely offset by the fact that the chain set is over 300 grams heavier than the equivalent Shimano one. So yeah, that's something to bear in mind. You can't argue with the price though, because about £310 versus if you got Shimano mechanical 11-speed, which is, I would say, the most comparable thing to this. I've seen that for sale for £500 on Wiggle. So yeah, like you can't really argue with the price. Like I said, if you want to see this bike built up with the group set in real life, make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss that, and let us know in the comments what you'd like us to see do to it, because we're going to build it up on a bike, we're going to give it some punishment, we're going to ride it in the real world and see how this actually performs when it's actually on a bike and being ridden. Will it break instantly or will it be good? Don't know. So we're gonna find out. But I hope you've enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up if you have, and I'll see you in the next one.